In this video, we're going to look at completing task 3 on the level 1 June 2014 paper. The task is to write a letter. So I'm going to go through all the things you need to do to write the letter and how to set that up and pick up the bits and pieces you need to get the points in the exam. As with all of these exam questions, you will get information from the internet search task, which is task 1. It usually asks you to find some information, maybe an image or a price of, this one says a price of admission. It might be a date or something like that, or some contact details, but each question is different. But this one asks us to find the adult admission price for the Ingleton Waterfalls. Now I've already done that and put my screenshot into the responses file. I've put the price and the website address, and notice that's not a Google address, it's just the site that I actually got the information from. And there's a screenshot showing that I've used the search engine appropriately and used sensible search criteria. There's a video on this earlier on the YouTube channel. Going back to the question, section B is an Excel question, it always is. Section B task 2 is always an Excel question. And then we move on to task 3, which says letter. Now, obviously, we've got to use the appropriate software for this. So we're going to use Word. I would use Word for letters, PowerPoint for presentations, and Word or Publisher for anything other than a letter or a PowerPoint presentation. I would generally use Publisher rather than Word for that if I'm doing a flyer or an advert or something like that. As you can see in the other videos about doing publications, it's much easier to get the layout right using Publisher rather than Word. Although it is possible to do it in Word, it's more complicated. So moving on, we're going to look at doing a letter. The first thing with these tasks is always just read the question, check the information you've got, and check the data files you're going to use. So this one's saying members of Rothwell Ramblers receive a letter inviting them to join each walk. Section A, Pat Collins, walk organiser, needs a letter about the walk to Ingleton Waterfalls. The letter must, and it's going to give us some rules and things that we must observe. So it must fit on one A4 page portrait. It must be fit for audience and purpose. So that means if you were writing a letter to maybe a group of 12-year-olds, it would be different to maybe if you were writing a letter to a museum's board of directors, for example, or something like that. So obviously your tone and the images you use and things like that are going to be different for those two audiences. The letter must include the text from letter text L1. In each of these questions, you'll be given a set of data files. These are the data files for this question, and there's always these 3 files. There's always going to be an Excel file, that's for task 2. There's going to be a text file, text document, which will give you the text to use in your task 3, so in your PowerPoint presentation, your publication, or your letter, and your responses one, which I showed you earlier, which had the answers from the search. There's also an images folder, which I'll come back to. So it says we need to use, let's go back to the question. It says the text from, so it doesn't say the relevant text or appropriate text or suitable text, it says the text. So what that means is generally you're going to use all of the text. You're not actually looking out for sometimes they put text in that's not relevant to the question, so you might have something about I don't know, a skiing trip, and then there'll be a section about how to make ice cream, for instance, which isn't really relevant, and they would expect you to spot that and take it out. So they want the text from letter text L1. So I'm going to just open that up and have a look. And when we double click on this file, it'll open up in a program called Notepad, which is a normal text editor for Windows. And when it opens up, it will by default will open up like this, and you'll see there's scroll bars that allow you to scroll across to see all the text. And if the window's too short, you'll get a vertical scroll bar that allows you to move up and down. Now, if you're looking at something like a letter, it might be, this looks like it's got, 6 lines in it. But what's happening is the text is running off the end of the screen. So what we'd do, and I would always recommend you do this, is go to Format, turn on Word Wrap, and what that would do is actually show you, so when it gets to the end of the line, so for instance we've got across and down, walk, up a narrow rocky gorge. Now if I make that window wider, you'll see that it just adjusts the text, so it's always showing the text. So that's quite a useful thing to do, and then you don't have to worry about not being able to see how much text you've got. Okay, if we have a look at this text file before we move on, we can see we've got Rothwell Ramblers at the top on its own, and we've got to insert today's date, tells us that, and there's the letter, dear member, Autumn Walks. I hope you're all making the most of the glorious summer we're enjoying this year. Long may it last. Although some weeks away, it is time to start planning our autumn walks. The committee has produced a programme using your suggestions. Our first walk will be to the beautiful Ingleton waterfalls on Wednesday, and it goes on and tells you about it. And then we've got further on, it says most of the walk is on private land, so there is a charge for admission. The adult admission price is, and then it asks you to enter the information we found in Section A, Task 1, which is the bit we found in the internet search. So that's always Section A, Task 1. So we'd put that information in. Would members please let me know by 20th of August whether or not they will come to Ingleton Waterfalls? Meeting information will be sent near the time. And then it says future walks will include, and it's got a set of 3 walks: Garsdale Head and Hellgill, Bolton Castle with Aysgarth Falls, Cam Head and Ingleborough. I hope you enjoyed the autumn walks and look forward to hearing from you soon. Best wishes. And then there's a space. You must leave a space for a signature, the name of the person, the walk organizer, and their contact details. The important thing with this is we read this and have a look at it and understand what it's saying, because we have to highlight important information. It's one of the things that will get us points. So, for instance, in this one, we're saying there's a date here. Our first walk would be to beautiful waterfall on Wednesday, the 3rd of September. It might be worth highlighting that. And to highlight it, we would just use one of the 3 things for text format. So we could use bold, italic, and underline, or a combination of the 3. If you had any subheadings, so for instance, we've got autumn walks, we might highlight that by making it bold and underlined or something like that when we do it in Word. And things like prices, cut-off dates, any important information should be highlighted just to make sure that people are reading that text. Okay, so we know what's in the text file. We can see it's just letter text there. Let's go back to our question. So we've got the text from letter text L1, the adult admission price that we found in section A task 1. It asked us to put in the price in the text file. The logo from images June 14 L1, and one other appropriate image selected from images June 14 L1. So we go back to our files and we can see here's our images folder. By default, when you open it, it'll look like this. Is showing details view. We can change that if we go to view and extra large icons, for instance, large icons, and so on. It changes the size. Now, one of the things we need from here is a logo. We can always tell what the logo is because the logo always has some letters or words, and it's usually clip art. It's not going to be a photograph as a logo. So I know that's the logo. So I know where that is, and I've identified that. And then I need one other relevant picture. So I've got, this looks like some sort of stream or something, a castle, someone skiing, and what looks like a view of a valley or a vale or something like that. So these, probably one of these 3 are going to be the pictures I use, and I'm not going to use this picture. As word of warning, there's always going to be some pictures that are not relevant. So for example, I suspect this one's not going to be relevant to the question, and I strongly suspect the skier's not going to be relevant, or snowboarder, I think he might be actually. I think he's possibly not going to be relevant. So I'm already deciding I've got 3 of those there that I'm going to use. So we've got to create the letter, enter our name, candidate number, and centre number in the footer. For the purpose of the training, you just need to put your name in here. You'll need to do this in the exam, the candidate number and centre number. You'll be given those on a piece of paper when you're going for the exam. And then save the letter using a meaningful file name. So what they don't want is you to call it letter 1 or just letter or something like that. They would want you to kind of describe what the file is in the name. So this is a letter about the walk to Ingleton. So we might say Rothwell Ramblers Ingleton Waterfalls letter. Maybe something like that is what we'd call the file. But we'll get onto that in a bit. So let's go back to the top of the question. We've checked out, and the reason we do that is because sometimes at the bottom here it will say add a paragraph or add a line of your own text to encourage people to take part or something like that. So we don't want to get tied down to doing a layout and everything, and then finally we've got to do another sentence or add something else in. So we're ready to start. The software we're going to use, remember, is Word. So let's start Word. If Word isn't already started, you can go to your Start menu or your Search and just type for Word. Just search for Word there, and you'll see the app appear there. We can just open it like that. By default, when Word starts, it starts something like this, and you'll have the option of blank documents. I'm not going to use any templates or anything like that. I'm just going to use a blank document, and I'll show you the things you need to do. That's going to come in the next video. I'm going to stop this one now because I'm limited to 15 minutes and work through the next part of it in the next video.